My friends, today I want to speak to you about a truth that is uncomfortable, a truth that pierces deep into the human heart, a truth that is often ignored but cannot be denied. The shocking truth about why most men fail because they lacked talent, not because they lacked opportunity, not even because the world was too hard against them. No, the real reason most men fail is because they gave up before they ever truly began. Failure does not come in a single day. It comes slowly, silently, step by step. It is the fruit of compromise, the harvest of excuses, the result of neglecting discipline and courage. Men fail not because the mountain is too high, but because they refuse to take the first step. They fail not because they are too weak, but because they have convinced themselves that strength is unnecessary. The shocking truth, my friends, is that most men fail because they stop fighting. They stop believing in the greatness within them. They surrender to comfort, to fear, to doubt. Instead of pushing forward, they drift backward. Instead of rising up, they settle down. And when a man settles, when he chooses ease over effort, when he allows complacency to become his companion, failure becomes his destiny. I tell you, there is greatness in every man. There is potential, power, courage, and destiny. But these are not handed out freely. They must be pursued with everything in you. Success is not an accident. It is a decision. A man must decide to rise above mediocrity, to fight through storms, to endure hardship, and to keep going when every voice around him says, think about it. History is not written by those who played it safe. It is not shaped by those who settled for less. History is written by men who dared to stand when others sat down, who chose the narrow road when others took the wide one, who refused to let failure have the final word. The shocking truth is that most men fail because they never take responsibility for their own lives. They blame others. They point fingers. They say, it's not my fault. But hear me, as long as you blame someone else, you give away your power to change. The moment a man takes responsibility for his own choices, his own future, his own life, that is the moment he begins to succeed. Men fail when they try to live without discipline. Discipline is the bridge between desire and destiny. Without it, dreams remain dreams. Without it, potential remains buried. But with it, with the courage to sacrifice, to stay focused, to endure, a man can rise from nothing and become unstoppable. Men fail when they try to live without purpose. A life without purpose is like a ship without a compass. It drifts, it wanders, it crashes. But when a man discovers his why, when he understands what he was born for, when he lives with vision and direction, failure can no longer chain him down. My friends, I do not tell you these truths to condemn you. I tell you these truths to wake you up. For the shocking truth about why most men fail is also the hopeful truth about how every man can succeed. You don't have to live defeated. You don't have to stay broken. You don't have to accept failure as your identity. You can rise again. You can fight again. You can choose discipline over distraction, courage over fear, responsibility over excuses. You can refuse to be counted among those who settled for less. You can decide today that failure will not define you. The truth may be shocking, but it is also liberating. For the very things that cause most men to fail are the very things you can overcome. And when you overcome them, you will discover strength you never knew you had and a destiny greater than you ever imagined. So I say to you, rise up. Don't give up. Don't settle. Don't waste your life. The shocking truth about why most men fail does not have to be your story. Choose to stand. Choose to fight. Choose to win. The shocking truth about why most men fail is not hidden in the complexity of life. nor is it found in some secret knowledge reserved for a few. It is simple, and it is sobering. Most men fail because they give up. They fail not because they lacked ability, not because the world was too harsh, not even because opportunity passed them by. They fail because they surrendered before they truly fought, because they settled for less when they were called for more, because they traded the fire of purpose for the comfort of ease. Failure is rarely a sudden collapse. It is often the slow erosion of discipline, the steady decline of courage, the quiet choice to remain comfortable when life demanded struggle. Men fail when they convince themselves that the journey is too long, the price is too high, or the challenge is too great. They fail when they believe the lie that mediocrity is safer than excellence, that drifting is easier than direction, that settling is wiser than striving. But within every man lies a spark, a seed of greatness, a calling that cannot be erased. Purpose is that fire. Purpose is what separates the man who rises from the one who falls, the man who endures from the one who quits, the man who leaves a legacy from the one who is forgotten. Purpose transforms failure into victory. Without it, every stumble feels final, every hardship feels unbearable, and every setback feels like the end. But with purpose, even failure becomes a stepping stone. Even pain becomes a teacher. Even defeat becomes a doorway to a greater triumph. Think about the men who shaped history, who altered nations, who stood against the tide of their times. Were they free from failure? No. They stumbled, they suffered, they were rejected, ridiculed, and resisted. But what kept them moving? It was not luck. It was not comfort. It was purpose. They carried a vision so strong that even in their darkest nights, they could see the dawn ahead. They endured because their lives were anchored to something greater than themselves. The shocking truth about why most men fail is that they never discover their why. They wake up, they go through routines, they chase after money, status, or pleasure, but they live without direction. A man without purpose is like a ship without a compass. He may move, but he drifts aimlessly, easily tossed by the winds of circumstance. He spends his energy, but he arrives nowhere. And when storms come, as they always do, he has nothing to steady him. He gives up, not because he was incapable, but because he lacked vision. Discipline without purpose becomes drudgery. Responsibility without purpose feels like a burden. Courage without purpose becomes reckless. But when purpose fuels these qualities, they come alive. Discipline becomes joy because it brings you closer to your calling. Responsibility becomes power because it gives meaning to your choices. Courage becomes strength because it protects what matters most. The truth is that failure itself is not the enemy. Failure is the refiner. Failure tests, shapes, and humbles a man. Failure reveals who you are when the world turns against you. But failure is never final when it is met with purpose. Purpose redeems failure. It transforms it into wisdom, and it gives you the power to rise again. A man with purpose can be knocked down 1,000 times, but he will rise 1,001 because his life is tied to something that cannot be broken. So many men fall because they live only for themselves. They chase pleasures that fade, comforts that weaken, distractions that destroy. And when life demands endurance, they have no strength to give. But the man who lives with purpose, who sees beyond himself, who is guided by vision, he cannot be easily defeated. Even in suffering, he finds meaning. Even in loss, he finds growth. Even in hardship, he finds hope. The shocking truth, my friends, is also the hopeful truth. If most men fail because they lack purpose, then the pathway to victory is clear. Discover your purpose, hold it close, and let it guide you through every season of life. It is not enough to wish for success. It is not enough to dream of greatness. You must anchor your life to a purpose that compels you to keep moving, no matter the cost. And what is purpose? Purpose is not simply a career or a goal. Purpose is the inner conviction that your life matters, that you were created for more than survival, that your existence carries weight and influence. It is the vision that pulls you out of bed when you want to quit. It is the fire that burns in your spirit when others laugh at your dream. It is the strength that carries you when your body is weary and your heart is heavy. Do not believe the lie that your failures disqualify you. They do not. They can shape you if you let them. They can refine you if you learn from them. Every great man you admire has scars, but his scars became his story. His wounds became his wisdom. His failures became the foundation for his victories. Purpose transforms failure into victory, and that is why you cannot afford to live without it. You may have stumbled yesterday, you may be broken today, but you can rise tomorrow. You can take responsibility, you can embrace discipline, you can choose courage. And most importantly, you can live for something greater than yourself. The shocking truth about why most men fail does not have to be your truth. You were not born to drift. You were not born to settle. You were not born to die defeated. You were born with purpose, and that purpose can make you unshakable, unstoppable, unbreakable. So rise up, refuse to surrender, refuse to settle, refuse to fail. Let purpose guide your steps, and you will discover that even your failures can become the very path to your greatest victories. The shocking truth about why most men fail is not hidden in mysteries, nor is it buried in secrets only a few can unlock. It is simple, direct, and piercing to the heart. Most men fail not because they are incapable, not because they lack talent, not even because the world is stacked against them. No. The real reason is this: they lack discipline, and they refuse to take responsibility for their lives. Discipline and responsibility are the foundation of success, and without them, even the most gifted man will collapse under the weight of his own excuses. Failure rarely happens overnight. It begins slowly, with small compromises, with tiny justifications, with a willingness to delay what should be done today. A man says, I will start tomorrow. I will change later. I will try when it feels easier. But tomorrow never comes. Later never arrives. Easier never shows up. So his dreams fade, his strength weakens, and his life becomes a shadow of what it could have been. The shocking truth is that most men live and die in mediocrity, not because they had no chance, but because they chose comfort over courage, excuses over effort, and laziness over discipline. Discipline is the bridge between where you are and where you want to be. A man without discipline is like a ship without a rudder. He may move, but he is carried by the currents of distraction and weakness. He drifts aimlessly until one day he finds himself far from where he intended to go. But a disciplined man, he commands his actions, he masters his habits, and he builds daily steps that carry him toward greatness. The shocking truth is that the difference between success and failure often lies in simple, consistent discipline, not talent, not luck. Discipline. But discipline alone is not enough. Responsibility must walk hand in hand with it. Most men fail because they spend their lives blaming others. They blame their families, their bosses, their circumstances, their past. They say, if only I had been given the chance. If only life had been fair. If only someone had helped me. But as long as a man blames, he is powerless. Responsibility is the key that unlocks power. When a man says, this is my life, my choice, my future, suddenly the chains of failure begin to break. Responsibility does not weigh you down, it sets you free. It forces you to face reality, to stop hiding, and to rise with courage. The shocking truth is that many men never fail because they lacked opportunities. They fail because they never took ownership of the opportunities already in front of them. A man who refuses responsibility will never change because he always believes change must come from somewhere else. But the man who accepts responsibility becomes unstoppable because he realizes the future is in his hands and no excuse can hold him back. Look through history and you will see it clearly. Great men were not the ones who avoided hardship. They were the ones who took responsibility in hardship. They did not wait for circumstances to become easier. They made themselves stronger. They did not complain about what they lacked. They disciplined themselves to use what they had. Men of greatness were not exempt from failure, but they refused to let failure define them. Why? Because they had chosen discipline and responsibility over excuses and blame. Think of the athlete who trains while others sleep. He does not wait for motivation, he builds habits. He takes responsibility for every hour, every meal, every sacrifice. That is why he rises to the top. Think of the man who grows in his career, not because someone handed him success, but because he disciplined himself to learn, to grow, to outwork and outlast. Think of the father who chooses to lead his family with honor, who accepts the responsibility of being an example, who sacrifices his comfort for the future of his children. These are the men who succeed, not because life was easy, but because they lived with discipline and responsibility. The shocking truth is that most men fail because they never train their minds, their hearts, and their hands for the fight of life. They want the crown, but not the cross. They want the prize, but not the process. They want the success, but not the sweat. And so, when pressure comes, when temptation whispers, when challenges rise, they collapse. But the man who has disciplined himself, the man who has taken full responsibility, he does not collapse. He endures. He does not run. He stands. He does not quit. He overcomes. Discipline is not easy. Responsibility is not comfortable. But both are necessary. Without them, a man will drift. With them, a man will rise. And here is the hope. No matter how many times you have failed, no matter how many excuses you have made, you can choose today to change. You can decide to live with discipline. You can decide to take responsibility. You can decide to stop waiting for tomorrow and start building today. Yes, the shocking truth is that most men fail because they ignore these two foundations. But the empowering truth is that any man, anywhere, at any time, can choose discipline and responsibility and begin to change his story. The past may explain where you are, but it does not define where you must go. The world may count you out, but if you choose responsibility, if you choose discipline, you can rise higher than anyone expected. So I challenge you, do not be like most men. Do not live in excuses. Do not waste your life in comfort and compromise. Discipline yourself. Take responsibility for everything within your reach. Stop waiting. Stop blaming. Stop delaying. The shocking truth about why most men fail does not have to be your truth. If you choose today to live with responsibility, if you choose today to embrace discipline, you will discover a strength within you that failure cannot defeat. You will find a destiny that mediocrity cannot deny. And your life will not be counted among those who settled. It will be remembered among those who overcame. The shocking truth about why most men fail is not what many think. Failure does not come because of weakness. It does not arrive because of lack of talent or lack of opportunity. The real reason most men fail is surrender. They surrender before the fight has even begun. They surrender their dreams to doubt, their strength to fear, and their purpose to comfort. Weakness does not destroy a man, but surrender does. Think about it. A weak man who keeps fighting is still in the race. A man with little talent who works day and night can still rise above those more gifted than him. But the one who lays down his weapons, who stops trying, who chooses the easy road, that man writes his own story of failure. Failure is not the result of weakness, but of surrender. Every man has been given something powerful within him. It may not look like much at first, but hidden in the heart of every man is greatness waiting to be revealed. Yet most never see it because they never dig deep enough to uncover it. They surrender too soon. They let life's battles convince them they cannot win. But the truth is, the battle is never lost until the man himself gives up. When you look at history, you see countless examples of men who started with nothing. They were poor, uneducated, forgotten, even despised. But they refused to surrender. They kept moving forward when others told them to stop. They kept working when the world mocked their efforts. And because they refused to bow to defeat, they discovered strength that even they didn't know was possible. Greatness was not given to them, it was unlocked through endurance. But today, too many men are satisfied with mediocrity. They choose comfort over calling. They trade discipline for distraction. They hand over their future in exchange for temporary ease. This is not weakness, it is surrender. And it is this surrender that chains men to ordinary lives, wasted potential, and unfulfilled destinies. If a man wants to rise, he must learn the power of responsibility. He must stop pointing fingers, stop blaming others, stop waiting for someone else to fix his life. Excuses are the language of surrender. Responsibility is the language of strength. The moment a man stands up and says, "This is my life, my choice, my future," he breaks the grip of failure, for failure has no power over the man who refuses to give it permission. Discipline is another key. Without discipline, desire remains a dream. Without discipline, potential remains buried. A man can wish for success, but if he is unwilling to sacrifice, unwilling to endure hardship, unwilling to walk the narrow road, he has already surrendered. Success belongs to those who are willing to pay the price, to stay focused, and to rise every time they fall. And above all, a man must find his purpose. A man without purpose is like a ship without a compass. It drifts until it crashes. But when a man knows his why, when he discovers the reason he was created, when he chooses to live with vision and direction, he becomes unstoppable. Obstacles still come, but they no longer define him. Storms may rise, but they cannot sink him. Failure may strike, but it cannot chain him, because purpose lifts him higher than defeat. I say this to you not to condemn, but to awaken. The shocking truth about why most men fail is also the hopeful truth about how every man can succeed. If failure comes through surrender, then success comes through perseverance. If failure comes through excuses, then success comes through responsibility. If failure comes through living without purpose, then success comes through discovering and pursuing that purpose with all your strength. You may have stumbled. You may have fallen. You may feel like you have wasted years of your life. But hear this truth: it is not too late. As long as you are breathing, you still have a fight left in you. You can choose today to rise again. You can choose to stop surrendering to fear, to doubt, to comfort, to excuses. You can choose to stand and fight for the life you were meant to live. Do not let the world convince you that you are finished. Do not let your failures whisper that you are worthless. Do not let your struggles tell you that you are too weak. Weakness is not your enemy. Surrender is, and you do not have to surrender. Every step forward, no matter how small, is proof that you are not finished. Every act of discipline, every choice to take responsibility, every moment you push past fear, you are declaring that you will not fail like most men fail. You will rise. You will fight. You will endure. There is greatness inside of you. There is strength you have not yet seen. There is a purpose designed for your life that only you can fulfill. But you must decide to take hold of it. You must refuse to settle for less. You must reject the easy road of surrender and choose the harder, narrower, but more glorious path of perseverance. The shocking truth about why most men fail does not have to be your story. You do not have to end in defeat. You do not have to settle for mediocrity. You do not have to surrender to fear, comfort, or excuses. You can choose to fight, to rise, to keep going when everything around you says quit. Failure is not the result of weakness, but of surrender. And if you refuse to surrender, if you choose to fight with everything in you, then failure cannot hold you. You will not just survive, you will overcome. You will not just exist, you will live with purpose. You will not just dream, you will achieve. So rise up, stand strong, do not surrender, and let your life be proof that the shocking truth about why most men fail does not apply to the man who refuses to quit.